Ladies and gentlemen, you're locked and loaded into another episode of the I.M.A.G.E podcast. And now I've got my man Rome Darren Bay, and he's been busy. He started his own program. He started his own podcast, and it's called reformcrimesentencing.org. He's going to talk about it. Now, we've got some great guests in the house. I'm telling you, we got my man Wayne Ford. And Wayne is the former Iowa State Legislature. We all know Wayne Ford in Des Moines, Iowa. We've also got Charles Bruton. And Charles Bruton served 12 years in the state prison. He's doing a lot in the community now to change things. We've got my man E.G. from Des Moines, Iowa. Breaded, owned, born and raised. Served 23 years in federal prison. Was just released very, very recently. And then we've got Pernell Flag Bay, who served another whopping 21 years in federal state prison. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get started, I want to tell you just real quickly about some introductions on some upcoming events. Image for Lives will be having a job fair. That's right, October 16th. It will be at the Renaissance Savory Hotel, a job fair open to the public. We'll have different types of varieties, such as airline type jobs, jobs that you've maybe dreamed of trying to get and didn't think that you could reach for. That'll all be felony friendly. Yes, we've also got the Bob Pate limousine service, transportation to and from the prison systems. We're going to start off on September 18th, just right around the corner. Reserve your spot. Only 6 seats that will fill to travel to Newton, CRC or Newton, and you will be able to visit a loved one. $75 per person. Get in touch with me, 515-326-5498. Right now, let's get into this. We're going to talk about sentencing reform tonight, and we've got the group here to talk about it. So I want to start off with you. Let us know, first of all, Rome, my man, what is really going on with this that we're going to get into, and how are we going to break this down? Tell the people the real in the wrong.
My name is Jerome Deering Bay, and I appreciate you all allowing me into your household tonight or your viewing perspective. I'm the co-founder and program director of reformcrimesentencingnow.org on Facebook also. And what we did was we got a few homeboys together and are basically going to express some views about reforming the sentencing practices here in Des Moines and across the nation as it relates to federal crimes. I have my cousin here tonight. He wants to talk about a very important issue dealing with the unconstitutionality of laws being changed that impact and affect one sentence, but don't affect similarly situated sentences because the law wasn't made retroactive. And our purpose and intent is to provide you with the necessary information so as going forward as a voting bloc, we can put our people in a position to vote for the candidates that best represent our concerns. Now, I sense, throughout my lifetime that, we've been voting for candidates or not voting at all based upon particular ideals. But because so many of our people suffer the ramifications of the criminal justice system, we need to be in a position to put representatives in office that best support the concepts and perceptions and the lives of our people as a whole. I know we don't represent but 3% of the population, but yet and still, that's still a very powerful voting bloc if we, in fact, get behind the right representative that's running for office on the agenda that person purports to put forward. What we have done throughout our lifetime is support ideals and concepts that might be of the church, the community center, or other individuals that we listen to without really understanding what's on the table and what's at stake. And with that, I would like to give the microphone to Mr. Wayne Ford, a former legislator who can articulate better than I about the power of the vote, no matter what our percentage are.
Thank you very much. Me and Jerome used to work together many years ago, and so it's good that we're back together again. Before I get to the power of the vote, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and I came here because I played football. But when I was young, when I was young, I used to rob buses and do bad things. I just never got caught. So I was a good football player, so I was able to get a scholarship. A lot of my friends went to Lorton. Lorton was a federal penitentiary in Washington, D.C., because D.C. is a federal city. So, Dad, you stick with somebody or hurt somebody, you go to the federal joint, because we ain't got no state. So everybody went to Lorton. And that's why a lot of the brothers who didn't go to Lorton, they went to Leavenworth. Is that down there in Leavenworth? Yeah, because the D.C. brothers, and y'all know about the D.C. brothers, so because we never had a joint to go to. But as I came up, everybody, all the young guys, our goal was to go to Lorton, including mine. But if I wasn't a good football player, I wouldn't be here now, because I used to rob buses when I was 14 in D.C. So I just want to kind of get it. Sometimes we have a perception, a legislator, what happened? Well, through the grace of God is the reason why I became a legislator. So that said, now getting back to a reform, we talk about legislation. I did legislation. When my first 6 years on Capitol Hill here in the state of Iowa, there was only one black. I was that black. And I'm talking the same way then, the way I talk now. I'm 70 years old. I was in my 40s when I first served on Capitol Hill. And I was in charge of Model City Community Center. So when the gangs, everything came here, I was in the middle of all that. And some of you all know my record, yes, back then, many years ago. But that was then, this is now. But here's what I did that I feel good about. I was the first state in the country that passed the Minority Impact Statement legislation. That was my legislation. I authored that in 1996. Excuse me, I'm getting it right. I authored that in 2008. And what that bill clearly says, that the governor, before he or she signs a bill that gives more sentencing, give you more time in the sentence, they must see how it affects minorities. In the state of Iowa, the code for minorities is Black, disabled, Latino, women, Native American. That's minorities in the state of Iowa. So I feel good that I was the first guy to author this. And right now, many states have tried to do what we've done here in Iowa. So being from where I come from, I already understood the prison situation because I grew up. That was my college before I played football. But I recognized if I ever got in the situation, I was going to do what I can do to make sure that I can reform. And also, Iowa had a prison, a crack cocaine, powder cocaine scenario. And I'm the one, you can look at the record, because it's public record. I was the one who got that first one passed. It used to be 10 to 1, it used to be 100 to 1. The government then went down to 100 to 1 in here in Iowa. I got down to 10 to 1. You could find my legislation. So again, being from my background, coming up the way I came up, hiring this man many years ago, I kind of feel good that we all back together again to talk about what we're doing for the community. Thank you very much.
That's great. Now, we got Charles Bruton here in the house. And Charles, I'm sorry, I forgot your AKA. It's Charles Bruton, AKA Rich Moyne Diesel. And you've been doing a lot of things in this community too that I've been seeing. You're not one to try to showboat. You're very humble, and I appreciate that. You sent a lot of people my way, and didn't really even say anything about it. These are people that have been helping me. And so I want to say thank you for that. And I also want I also want you to, give our viewers a little bit of insight on some of the things that you've been working on and things that are important to you as it relates to this topic.
As far as prison reform, the first thing I got to speak about is what I've been doing now. I became a coach for 2 different organizations. So I'm all about prevention right now. Trying to keep kids out of trouble, not waiting until they get in trouble or they get killed and then trying to put something together. Get them busy now. Get them a focus now. Let them see a future for themselves, and then we won't be having these issues of what goes on in the prisons or anything like that. But on the other hand, of prison reform, I feel like this, you talk about prison reforms. The first thing that needs to be reformed is the unconstitutional laws that they have people doing life sentences on or any type of time on.
And I know felony murder was one of those that you were really, impactful in and trying to change.
Yeah, there's a case, the Hemstra case, where he got his case overturned because he was found of felony murder, willful injury being the felony to the murder, which they said was unconstitutional. Now, when you talk about murder, they use that word murder, but in my homies' cases that I speak up for, they were all protecting themselves. It was like they were standing their ground. Somebody had the intent to come over to them. They just won the battle, and now they're doing a life sentence for it,
And if you don't mind, let me speak to that right quick. And because my cousin, my first bloodline cousin, speaks truth to power, but the issue that he addresses has many different elements to it. And those elements are when a case like the Hemstra case that he speaks about was decided by the Supreme Court in 2006, 2007, they made that case applicable to the Hemstra decision. And after the fact, they shut the door because they didn't make that case retroactive. That's the reason why I said during my prelim, if in fact the voters don't get behind the right representatives that is putting forth smart sentencing practices to address the issues that most affect our community, then we're going to always find ourselves in these type of discussions. It's not on the representative, it's on the voter. You vote in that person and hold that person accountable to what that person demonstrates or articulates to you. If he says he's going to do this as part of his political campaign, he's going to do that as their part of their commitment, whether it be he or she, you have to hold him accountable to that. And what has happened, and what my cousin has spoken to, is the fact that they overturned the law for a farmer who shot an individual, had life in prison, but he was charged under a dual state code, willful injury and first-degree murder. The Iowa State Supreme Court came back and overturned that because of the two elements that were involved in the charging instrument. So with that being said, after they overturned it, individuals that are serving extensive amount of time in state prison for murder asked to get relief or review based upon the same charging instrument. But the court denied those individuals after the fact, after 2006, relief. And so my cousin has been a proponent of trying to get some clarification as it relates to the way the court invokes a law, overturns a law, changes Supreme Court precedent of the state, district court precedent of the state, or appellate court precedent of the state, and have it apply applicably and fairly and equally to each individual who may benefit from a law that is fair and just.
Thank you, Jerome.
And when you say your cousin, you are referring to Charles Bruton, a.k.a. Right.
Hey, before you go to him, I just want to add one thing, and I'll be done. As far as with the voting, because I believe in voting and ex-felon voting. Now, I know when I was in prison, anybody that went back to court that got convicted of something, one thing that they had on there was that they didn't have a jury of their peers when they were convicted, right? So when they go to pick a jury, they go off of that registration ballot, and they go off of who has a license.
Come on, man.
So if you're not voting, you can never do jury duty. But some people would say, right, why would I want to do jury duty? Because you could be an ex-felon and do jury duty, right?
You said
Hold on, let me
finish.
Yeah.
You said something. Jury of your peers. Define that.
Having some African Americans on sitting up there to give you a fair trial, right? And Go ahead. Sorry, Matthew. Yeah, to give you a fair trial. But I just want everybody to think about, everybody that gets to see this, okay? That, if you have a chance to do jury duty, think about if you wanted somebody to leave you hanging when they were giving you your sentence, or would you want somebody to sit there and speak up for you if it was unfair? Now, if you did what you did, you did what you did. But if you was in the right, if you was trying to protect yourself or whatever, you would want somebody there to speak up for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned in to the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, reformcrimesentencingnow.org. And we're going to go to a quick commercial. When we come back, we're going to speak with E.G., who served 23 years in federal prison. We're also going to speak with Jerome Bay, who served another 21 years in federal prison. We'll be back. Or excuse me, we're not going to speak with Jerome Bay. We already spoke with you. We're going to speak with Pernell Flagg. That's right. My man, how can I forget you, Pernell? Pernell Flagg. We'll be back right after these messages. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, reformcrimesentencingnow.org. And so we've got, and I need to make a correction. I said that E.G. was from Des Moines, Iowa. He's not from Des Moines, Iowa. He's from the Quad Cities. However, he's got a lot of friends here in Des Moines, Iowa, and we show him a lot of love and we embrace him. So he's just like family. Now, E.G. has just got released from federal prison, and he served 23 years. So, E.G., first of all, tell me, how was it, man, serving this time in federal prison like that, and how does it feel to be free now?
Well, let me first let everybody know that I'm probably the most fortunate guy in the room because I'm graced with y'all presence and the work y'all doing. They just told me to put the mic a little closer to my mouth, so
Yeah, you got to hold it up.
yeah. Anyway, this is my first time doing a podcast and whatever.
Hey, you're doing fine. Relax, brother. You're doing a great job.
And I'm here just as a voice, bro. Prison reform, bro, is something that's been well over needed. As they say, it's unconstitutional. They talk about 100-to-1 ratio when it first started out, and then 18-to-1. He shouldn't have stopped until he got 1-to-1, because without cocaine, there is no rock with prison reform. So as far as that goes, that's just my opinion and my voice.
Let me ask you something. And this is just something that I'm sure a lot of people want to know. Okay, after just finally being released, after serving all that time, what did you look forward to most coming out here that you see now was different?
Well, I can't say that I was looking forward to seeing something because I try to stay in current affairs so I would know what was going on in the world. I'm looking inside that box. I'm inside that box looking out. So I'm seeing everything that's being rotated around me. I didn't expect nothing different.
Okay.
But I will tell y'all this, I have been enjoying myself, being free, my freedom. And I'm still paying my debt for something I did 28 years ago. I've been released for the last year and a half.
Explain that.
Explain that because they got their claws in me and they ain't gonna let me go until they get ready. There's no simpler than that. I'm still seeing them every month, dropping UAs, doing this just so I can stay out here in society. I'm not doing nothing wrong. I refuse to do anything illegal again in my life. But I do want my message to get out there, and it deals with the whole human race and reform of that, not just the justice system, because without us standing up, the justice system is going to remain the way it is. The political leaders in there that we choose to put up in there, and not looking at our agenda as people, as human beings, our rights.
Hey, well, hey, I tell you, man, we just welcome you back into society. We want to tell you to take it nice and slow. You know, don't rush nothing. You got support here. Rome Darren Bay, Charles Bruton, Flagg Bay.
Like I said, I'm the most fortunate person in the room. I stutter here a little bit when I get excited, so I don't know nobody out here looking at this broadcast.
Well, that's
I don't
good.
really know nobody in the room but one person, so yeah, it is what it is.
All right, Pernell Flag Bay. Me and Pernell go way back in 2007, right before I had actually got locked up. He was just getting out, and Pernell Flag has been doing a lot of good things here in the community. He's been entrepreneuring. He's been excelling in different ways. So, first of all, Pernell, tell us just a little bit about your story, man, and a little bit about what's going on.
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to say Islam and greet everybody in this room. And I really appreciate being here. First of all, I'd like to speak on the word reform. That word rings a bell in my ear because it means to shape, remold something into something better. But prison does not reform anyone. Reform comes from within. So when I went to federal prison years ago in 1987, I had an ideal about myself, what I was going to do when I returned to the society. I wasn't going to come out the same way that I went in. But I seen a lot of disparities in federal prison as far as Latinos, African Americans, and people of color in general. So with that being said, I had an attitude that I was going to do everything I could to try to change the conditions, not only inside federal prison, but inside myself. So working with a lot of organizations and programs inside of federal prison, we started to get certain programs inside there that would aid and assist African Americans. Me learning the conditions of prison and seeing still today where they house us for years in and years out. I'm saying where there's no revolving door. You go in with a number. I had a 25-year sentence. I did 21 years flat on it without no chance of parole or anything. I had a flat number to do, 21 years.
And if I'm not mistaken, all this time was accumulated from something that was nonviolent. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I had a drug charge back in 1987. They wrapped me around their finger as far as the law was concerned. And that's what I really want to speak on the most. I'm saying because if there is a crime that's committed, let's let the punishment fit the crime. You can't say that it's justifiable to put a young man in prison, 21, 19, 23 years old in prison, and then turn around and say he has to do 21 years or 25 years of his life for a drug charge, a nonviolent crime. So I learned a lesson. I learned a valuable lesson that you have to learn that in order for you to change anything in this world, you must first change yourself.
That's so true. And Pernell, so I'm not sure if you're up on a lot of what I've been talking about. I'm sure you are in the 13th Amendment and the fact that slavery was abolished in 1865, however, except for prison. And it's in the Constitution, 13th Amendment, where slavery is considered still legal in the penal system. A lot of people don't know that, and they don't realize the impact that this has, not only in sentence reform, but across the board. And go ahead.
No, yes, sir. I know exactly what you mean. I can speak to the fact of that. They have what they call industrials inside a federal prison. They call unicors. They pay you pennies per day, where they make millions of dollars on free slave labor in federal prison. There was a time when I was in federal prison that they had federally funded college programs. They took all this out of there. So now you're just being housed in prison and you're just going through the norm every day, hoping and praying that every day that there may be some kind of break in the law that may let you out early or may let you out way before. You know what I'm saying? May overturn your case. But that is not the case. I've seen it time and time again. Young men coming in prison, man, with these crimes, man, that is, devastated. I'm saying by not only the penal system, but by the courts, because these people know, you understand me, that it's unjustifiable, man.
Well, and I think that society has been hoodwinked into just believing what they hear in the media and the news and that, well, they're killers. They don't deserve anything. While not everybody is killers, not everybody is murderers. We're talking about nonviolent crimes per se, right here on this platform.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about these type of numbers that are being handed out. 21 years, 23 years straight. I mean, doing all that kind of time, 25 years, Rome, Durham Bay. These are nonviolent crimes.
These are football numbers.
Yeah.
I'm not cutting you off. These are football numbers, and if you go back and look at the law that actually housed most of the African American and Latino families, you understand the law started in 1986, which was called the Reform Act of 1987. But what it was a trap door, because they know once they got you into a federal or state court that you was going to be sentenced to a higher disparity, especially a person of color, a higher disparity, and that they was going to house you there for years. So they knew that they was going to get this work out of you, because in federal prison, you have to work. You have to have some kind of job doing something, you know what I'm saying? Because they're going to make sure that you work there, because it's all about industrious. So what I'm saying today, me coming home from federal prison, I changed my ideology. I changed my way of thinking. I changed my way of doing things. I created a business. Me and my family out here, we try to help young African Americans in the community for them to be stay in school, to be more involved in sports, to be more respectful to young women, be more respectful to their parents and so forth. These are the things that strong men in the community do to try to raise up their community. So this is the program. This is the steps that I'm going through to keep trying to, it's like block building. You had to keep on trying to teach one step at a time.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to be able to hear you speak, man, because you speak very, very well with good authority, and what you're talking about is very direct and informative. And I want to say thank you. And I also want to, to hope that you stay involved. I'm going to ask you, to stay involved with what we have going on, to hear about the group here that Rome put together tonight. I thought was phenomenal to see Charles Bruton, to meet E.G. for the first time. And then it's always nice to have Wayne Ford in the house. But to come together like this is what it's going to take to make some movement. And so, I want to go back over here to Rome. Now, Rome, you started this program here. You rounded everybody up here tonight together. And so you deserve a lot of credit for what you're doing behind the scenes. And so, okay, wait a minute. Let me give you your credit where it's deserved, okay? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so this reformcrimesentencingnow.org and all that you're doing with this, tell us just a little bit about it.
Okay, well, I'll get into that in a minute. I want to touch on some of the things that Flag Bay just spoke to, and because I really appreciate what he said. I appreciate what my cousin Chuck Brewer said. I appreciate what E.G. said. These are men that have been in, the gladiator schools, had to deal with life inside. And I know, a lot of the youngsters out here doing this and doing that don't really understand the circumstances in which they subject themselves to once they participate in a particular path. And it's not all fun and games. You heard Pernell Flag Bay, you heard E.G., you heard Charles Brewer, and you heard Mr. Pate all talk about their experiences, even though it was short and to the point, because we don't have a lot of time. We can't share with you 20 years in prison. But trust me, Iowa doesn't have a federal prison system, so you're going somewhere else in another state. And when you go in there, you might be tough out here. But when you get in there, you're not tough in there. It's a whole different protocol in federal prison and in state prison. So that's my message to the youth. Now, as far as the formulation of our program, reformcrimesentencingnow.org, we activated that, initiated that concept in 2016. I've been a part of establishing programs that deal with criminal justice reform since 1987, but I've incurred my own problems with the criminal justice system. And like I said, when I got out of here, if it wasn't for Mr. Pate Wayne Ford and the support group that I have, which are mostly individuals that have been incarcerated, I wouldn't have been able to achieve the minor success that I have achieved. And that deals with, Pernell Flagg and his operation called the Hotspot on 2nd and Euclid in Des Moines, Iowa, has attributed a lot to individuals that are coming out of prison. He has a clothing store up there, and I would promote and suggest that anybody that has an opportunity to visit that store, visit it. I can't say enough about Mr. Pate. He was there from day one, as was Flag Bay. And if it wasn't for their consideration, their compassion to aid and assist individuals coming out of prison, my road would have been a lot harder than it was. My cousin, who I love, I don't even remember him until 2020. And his mother, who I hold dear, made that introduction, and he'd been there for me. He ain't never seen me prior to 2020. My cousin, first cousin, he's never seen me. And that man come out the door and said, "Cuz, what you need is what you got, and everything I needed, I got." And I'm honored to have these people in my corner. Everybody ain't gonna have that support group, and that's unfortunate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're locked and loaded into nothing but love. We want to thank you all for tuning in to a wonderful episode on the I.M.A.G.E TV podcast, and now the brand new reformcrimesentencing.org. We're all out of time for now, but we want to tell you to stay tuned, because this was real talk with real people in real situations. We'll see you next time.